while of course the whole day has been set around understanding e-commerce and e-retailing a little better, we come down to the next stage of e-commerce, which is perhaps known better as mCommerce today, or mobile being used as a tool for internet retailing. In fact, so much so when I was sitting with my panelists, they said that internet is actually old, mobile is really what is new. So idea is to understand that, when we are, and it's a ComScore study that was done a while back, which said that overseas and even in India, and perhaps in India it's even more, a regular person is spending, who has a smartphone, anywhere between 2.5 to 3 hours every day on his smartphone. So, while he's doing that, of course, he's checking his mails, he's doing messaging, but at the same time, he is increasingly, or she is increasingly using her mobile to either understand what product or particular products that the person is looking for, or at least, or in some cases, even buying products by using the mobile service. So, having said that, mobile is probably the next future, considering that we are fast moving out of desktops and our laptops to more tablets and iPads. So our panel is really going to help us understand that how mobile business really work, how different is mobile business from e-commerce business, which we are still, most of us are still trying to understand and figure out, and we've already moved on to mobile commerce. In fact, yesterday a speaker was talking about neighborhood commerce. So things are moving really fast, and I think with a view to capture what mobile commerce is, we put this session together. Prashant, I'll start with you to begin with on this. Understandably, mobile commerce is something that we are consuming a lot as customers. But technically, what would you say is the difference between e-commerce and mCommerce? And what trends do you particularly foresee which says that mCommerce is the future wave or the way to buy in future, or to be the place to be?
So I'll answer the first question, the difference between e-commerce and mobile commerce. So I recently saw a slide on Business Insider, and for the first time, we saw everything that wasn't mobile as non-mobile, and then everything else was mobile. So typically the way I kind of think about this is mobile commerce is anytime you are using your smartphone to transact. This could be directly going to a website and doing a transaction, or using mobile apps. In the US, this year has been the first year where mobile app consumption has far exceeded desktop. So we've reached that inflection point, and now it's only going to increase further onwards. In terms of trends that we're seeing, there's a huge opportunity. So if we talk numbers, today in India, you've got about 120 million mobile smartphone users. They account for about roughly about 5 billion of e-commerce or mobile commerce spending. When you compare the 120 million smartphone users to US, which is at about 145 million, they account for close to 300 billion. So there's only one, we're at a point where there's only one way, and which is up. And one of the big advantages is we're sitting on people. So we have 1.2 billion people. It's only 10% of market penetration today. So all these different stats together say that mobile commerce consumption through smartphones, multiple screens, is the way forward. So I'm definitely bullish about that.
Great, I think so. With more screens coming in, and more screens actually coming in the mobile world rather than on the table world or the desktop world, I guess, is perhaps the way forward. Another thing which I would like to understand from all of you is that for me as a consumer, would it be any different in the coming times to, from a convenience standpoint, to be able to differentiate between internet commerce and mobile commerce? And, I'm asking you this question because, a lot of us are getting used to technology and internet as a tool to buy. So now if we're going to go on shifting to various devices, is my convenience going to be compromised in any way?
So again, an interesting stat by the folks over at ComScore, where they recently said mobile is dead. And basically what they meant was we're reaching a point where we're screen agnostic. So it doesn't matter where you're consuming, where you're transacting. The screen size typically changes. So the way we would think about it is, whether it's a tablet or a phablet or a phone, and now with Apple Watch, where the screen size is further, going smaller, you're wearing it a lot more often, you're going to be interacting with it a lot more. Mobile commerce is essentially if you are consuming content or if you are buying while you're on the go. So it's regardless of, in my view, the screen.
So you feel basically that mobile commerce is being created to be the size of the screen. It is being thought of in a manner where no matter how large or big the screen, the information usage would be extremely convenient.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. That's a great point. So guys, you go ahead, use your mobile for everything. I have another question. So two of our panelists are actually e-retailers. Rahul runs a site called indianroots.com, and you have a campus mall, which is more to do with college licensed products, which is, of course, he's going to tell you a lot more. So I want to understand from both of you, because since you are e-retail, you have an e-retail setup. Have you seen any sort of difference, or how has your consumer reacted, or how much is your consumer buying, to put it more easily, from mobile versus internet?
So Ritu, I have been in the mall space for about 10 years before I got into e-commerce in 2009. What we have to also look at is the consumption pattern. So earlier, when Indians were exposed to organized retail, first time we went into malls and we saw lovely stores. So your whole sensory experience was on a larger screen, so to say. Okay. And then you moved it to e-commerce, which was a desktop screen. And now what has changed in terms of mobile is only that the screen has shifted from being static to being mobile. Right. Okay. But for a retailer, what has changed is I now need to, so when I moved from malls, shopping malls to internet, e-commerce, the one thing I learned is you need a completely different mindset to market from that screen. Right. The way you interact, the way you present your merchandise to your customer, everything needs to completely change. In mobile, unfortunately for a lot of e-commerce guys, we are just seeing it as an extension of your desktop. It is not. It requires a completely new mindset for you to when you go mobile. So now we have just launched our app 15 days back, and we are not marketing it right now because it is taking us a huge amount of effort to figure out what to place on that small screen for all merchants who come on my site. The biggest thing is, okay, Rahul, if you put me on the home page, I know I'll move an X amount of merchandise. Sure. On mobile, it's going to get tougher for me to put the same amount of brands. That's one part of it. The other part of it is the network connectivity in India is still horrible. I mean, I live in a capital city. When I travel from Delhi to Gurgaon, that amount of time the call drops or whatever app. So you need to invest a massive amount of money in technology to make sure that it's a seamless experience. Sure. The third point is payments in India, online, especially on mobile, are still a pain. We don't have one-click checkout. So you have to wait in certain cases for the SMS to come and all that. So my whole point is you have to rethink your whole presentation page. I don't know if you need a separate team, but you definitely need a separate mindset to market on a mobile app.
Sure. So, okay, that's a great point. Marketing on mobile at least requires a different thinking as an e-retailer. So, come to you, Ankur. You are into a very niche category of products, but the good part about your products is they're also more going to be tuned to younger people or millennials who are going to be bigger buyers. So do you see a bigger traction for mCommerce going forward?
Absolutely. Am I audible? Okay. I think mobile certainly is we already see a trend, being setting up online stores for premier schools and colleges. The demographics that we deal with certainly is, we're millennials also like on-the-go generation, right? So we want to be wherever our customers potentially are and get them with as much ease as possible. When a customer goes to buy their collegiate merchandise on a portal, on the e-commerce website, it is accessible through the portal currently. But what we are seeing is that they, even though we don't have an app yet, but our portal is mobile ready. Like when you open on your smartphone, it still gives you that experience of looking look and feel of a mobile app, not the functionality yet. But where you see the traction is that people are looking for easier transaction. They want to be on the go. You talked about, Rahul talked about the payment features, with cash on delivery, and especially with mobile, when you see things like Paytm getting easy access on the phones, it's helping a lot of customers making quicker transactions that way.
Just to add,
Sure.
coming from advertising, we study a lot of consumer behavior on mobile, and two very interesting trends are coming out on mobile. First, see, unlike desktop PC, where Google was the gateway of any kind of content or community or even commerce, there's no page rank algorithm on the mobile, because there is no such way where people can discover any kind of commerce sites. So which makes the whole mobile discovery much more broken today. So anybody who's able to solve that discovery for the user will definitely benefit. And that's where you have to realize that mobile people will consume content in small chunks of visual content. You can't have text-based kind of content, which we used to see in the desktop world through PC, which means people would stumble upon a lot of visual content, something which is snackable in small doses, and that's how consumers will consume content or commerce on mobile vis-a-vis, say, on desktop PC. And that's why if you see companies like Roposo, a Woopler, a LimeRoad, Nearify, which are helping users to discover content, stumble upon content is coming. That is the first part. The second interesting difference in consumer behavior on the classical desktop versus mobile is the whole journey from awareness to interest. See, today on mobile, we get hit upon with a lot of tweets, images, video. And the whole IDA model, as we all studied in B School, awareness till desire, has just collapsed into few minutes. I can nudge a user to see an interesting piece of fashion accessory. It generates interest in her if she's seen that a lot of her friends have liked that particular piece of product, and finally even close the transaction either on my own ad or on the merchant space within a span of, say, 2 minutes. So the whole IDA model, which used to be weeks or months in the traditional classical, has just collapsed to a few seconds or a few minutes, which will be very unique for mobile, which is not yet there on desktop.
Sure. Sure. Please go ahead.
Yeah, one comment I wanted to add was what we've also seen. I know, it is very common to think that, when we think mobile or e-commerce even, it's the younger generation. One interesting trend that, we've also observed is that some of the older alumni that come on our portal and make purchases, right? And you feel like, these guys are not going to be smartphone savvy and wouldn't want to access their apps on the phone. What we've been able to see is that those transactions actually tend to happen more on the mobile platform rather than desktop, because they just find it easier to handle a phone, even if it is not through an app. It's just easier for them to handle through the phone and make the transaction instead of sitting in front of a desktop or be locked to a desk to be able to do that.
We often hear from when we go out and meet a lot of brands, which is when we started off many years ago at that time, and we were trying to build this loyalty platform. A lot of people said loyalty may or may not work in our environment because our environment is A versus B versus C. All of that happened, and we actually went through that journey and sort of proved reasonably successful at that. And then came e-commerce, and then we heard a lot of questions again about whether e-commerce works, loyalty works in e-commerce, and now mCommerce. Well, actually, our answer to that is, essentially, the way consumers are today transacting or shopping has changed, but the DNA of a consumer is pretty much the same. I mean, the way you react as a consumer to buying is still the same. He's still looking for those 3 or 4 things that, that would make him transact over there, whether it's convenience, whether it is the experience, etc., etc. So the levers at play would still be more or less the same. And so that doesn't change so much as far as consumers are concerned. If anything, in the case of e-commerce stroke mCommerce, loyalty becomes even more potent. I mean, simply because, in the offline world, we often heard, and even today we hear this, that, loyalty is not going to work unless and until I have footprint. So if I'm not present in a particular area or a particular geography, there's no point, because the consumer is never going to turn up over there. Now, that is one of the key concerns that we hear from people. Now, today in the e-commerce, the mCommerce world, you've pretty much taken out that parameter out of the equation. You have a consumer is sitting on his desktop or on his mobile, and he can be directed to whatever place he wants to go to, which is where we come into the picture, which is where we, because of the kind of consumer base that we sit on, the relevance that the currency has today with the consumers, we're able to drive traffic to our partners saying, hey, listen, if you were to be shopping at this place, you would have been rewarded, blah, blah, blah. Or, hey, listen, you've got so many points, you're planning to buy travel, go to Make My Trip, because, listen, you've got enough points to buy your travel from there. And hence we've been able to add a lot of value. I personally am not getting into the debate of E versus M because I'm not even qualified as far as I'm concerned. But what I'm trying to say is that the levers don't change. If anything, they become even more potent today. And we're seeing that. We've proved it to our partners time and time again today. The online business today that we do is becoming bigger. And it's becoming even more, it's becoming larger than even the offline business that we've been doing all this while.
Sure. Vineet, I'll come to you now. Considering that you capture a lot of analytics around from the POS and from the point of sales, and also that the fact that loyalty is something that you have been trying to understand for a lot of retailers, e-retailers. What is your take on how has mCommerce been consumed by people in the coming times, or is in the times that are and are likely to go in the coming times?
So whatever I'm hearing about mCommerce or mobile in the panel here also, we today work with 150 odd brands in the country, and we analyze every transaction that passes through every store, every POS of those brands. The percentage of consumers who transact at the point of sale plus the e-commerce side plus on mobile commerce is negligible, is close to zero. So in leading brands of the country today, we won't even find double-digit consumers who are consuming or transacting across all channels of that brand. So that still is a huge, and this is real-life analytics. It's not this thing. So point of sale obviously dominates. E-commerce is coming up, but is that single customer going across and buying across all your channels? That's negligible. So that needs to be changed. In Mobi, a lot of people are trying to invoke a new customer acquisition through the mobile screen. A lot of content consumption is happening there. But when you actually go down to a transaction level detail, analyzing consumer behavior at the point of sale and then tracking him across other channels, one is not happening. And even if it's happening, you don't find any take by the consumer across all channels. So that's, I think, the bigger concern, challenge that all of us need to first solve. So we as a business today do a lot of focus on the point of sale. We use mobile phone largely as a communication device because one, it is a two-way communication device. Second, it's a more often or more in face for the consumer. But a lot of behavior trends that come out from point of sale. Some of them are being seen a little traction on the online of that same consumer. So till today, we've not seen a common large set of consumer online plus. It's a different set of consumers online, totally different set of consumers on the point of sale. You take a women's fashion brand, 99.999 would be point of sale. Very few on this thing. When we really go down to product category analysis, we find that there are very specific product categories that have been bought online, but a large number has been bought offline. That also does not, we do gender analysis, go down and see which products suit the gender. And then we find out that it could be somebody else who could have bought for the actual consumer. So those trends are still very large. It's a small traction that has moved to internet, but it's a new consumer. Mobile, it's a lot of consumption, but transaction again is another set of consumers, not the same set of consumer. So a lot of activity needs to be done in terms of analyzing buying behaviors, converting POS sales to an actual internet sale, and then moving that and extending it to the mobile. So a lot of analytics-driven campaigning needs to be done to drive that same consumer to at least buy, if not the actual product, an accessory to start with, and then do his actual constant, consistent purchases and get to that same billing value that he does at the POS on the mobile or the internet.
Great, great point.